I know I haven't commented as much on politics lately. Other things have taken up my time. However, I'm back, and I'm not happy. Since the story came out about the Social Security recipients not getting their cost of living increase because the government can't afford it, I've pointed out that I noticed the welfare system doesn't seem to be short of cash. As a matter of fact, just about every baby factory who is currently getting handouts makes more than I do as an injured and retired veteran. Well, of course, when I point this out, the libtards come back with the standard responses. If we cut military spending, sit down, you're a wonder-tard. You're about to go to school. We treat welfare recipients with handouts better than our military. For instance, the welfare mother gets far better treatment at the local clinic. The welfare benefits sometimes are greater than the compensation given to our military. In fact, we treat our military with such disdain that oftentimes young military families are forced to apply for and obtain food stamps and other welfare programs. In 2013, there were 900,000 members of the military on food stamps. These are ambitious and well-trained individuals, not your minimum wage burger flippers, if they work, who eventually see the light and realize that the citizenry do not care for them at all. They are treated worse than dogs in some cases. They decide they will not put their lives and their families' lives in jeopardy for such an ungrateful mass. They decide to leave the service, often as early as they can, taking with them their experience, their training, and their dedication, and never to return. 1 in 3 people in this country is on some form of welfare. I wonder who they'll be voting for. That number counts people receiving what are known as means-tested federal benefits or subsidies based on income. This includes welfare programs ranging from food stamps to subsidized housing to the program most commonly referred to as welfare, temporary assistance for needy families. Welfare spending is now our largest budget item. In a 2011 report, the Nonpartisan Congressional Research Service finds that the largest federal budget item is spending on welfare programs. To support the 83 programs that CRS identified as welfare programs, the federal government spends $745.84 billion. That dollar amount exceeds the $725 billion spent by the federal government on Social Security, $480 billion on Medicare, and $540 billion on non-war defense. In all, the U.S. government, including federal and state governments, spends in excess of $1 trillion on welfare, based on data from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Oxford Handbook of State and Local Government Finance. Budget Committee staff calculated at least an additional $283 billion in state contributions to those same federal programs for a total annual expenditure of $1.03 trillion, the Republican side of the Senate Budget Committee finds. The welfare programs, 83 in all, range from Pell Grants for college students to the food stamps program to the free or reduced lunch plan to community development block grants to Indian housing block grants and seemingly everything in between. The exclusively federal share of spending on these federal programs is up 32% since 2008. When did Obama take office? And now comprises 21% of federal outlays. This share, too, is more than Social Security, Medicare, or defense. The Republicans on the Senate Budget Committee write, as a historical comparison, spending on the 10 largest of the 83 programs, which account for the bulk of federal welfare spending, has doubled as a share of the federal budget over just the last 30 years. In inflation-adjusted dollars, the amount expended on these 10 programs has increased by, wait for it, 378% over that time. Let's look at the 2013 federal budget, the most recent one I could find that was complete. I'm only going to look at the 2 areas that libtards bring up the most: military spending and welfare. The Department of Defense, including overseas contingency operations, spent $666 billion. That's in discretionary spending. And $6.7 billion in mandatory spending. That totaled $672.9 billion. That's 17.7% of the total federal budget. Now, let's look at what we spend in handouts, not entitlements. Social Security is an entitlement. Military pensions are an entitlement. They're either paid into or earned through work. The Department of Health and Human Services, including Medicare and Medicaid, basically welfare, spent in discretionary spending $80.6 billion. They spent $860.8 billion in mandatory spending. That's a total of $940.9 billion. That's a total 24.7% of the federal budget. That's just federal. I'm not counting the states. That would take too friggin' long. There you have it. We live in a country where we put our freeloaders and baby factories over our workers and our protectors. Let's hear it for the dumbasses. Remember, when all this collapses, there won't be any more welfare checks. If it weren't for the old people and my kids, I'd actually want it to collapse. This country needs a good enema. The United States is currently ranked 36th in education worldwide. Everyone give the libtards a hand for constantly demonstrating why.